Hello.
Hey.
Awesome. You want to send me an embed code and we'll try this?
Yeah, I just sent it over Skype.
All right. So I guess theoretically people might be listening to this right now.
Yeah, this is live right now. There's this video of me on YouTube just laughing for like 30 seconds for no reason because I realized I figured it out.
What the heck happened?
I don't know, but like there was a button that wasn't there before, and it all actually worked. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something else, but I don't know. Like you see it now. It says live up in the upper corner, right?
It does, yes.
Yeah. Do you have a stop button?
No.
Okay, so only I can stop this. Okay. But yeah, like there was a big start broadcast button there that wasn't there before. So I hit that and hey, it works. So that's
all right. You want to start tweeting out the link?
Yep. Oh,
all right, and then I also did put it on the BC Interruption. The title is Test. That works.
Yeah, the title is Test because that's what I was trying to figure out. I was just testing. But yeah, there's definitely a video live stream where people can be watching the show right now if they want. So yeah.
We are now ready to start, I guess. So when we actually record Eastern Bias, start the recording approximately here.
Yeah, approximately here. Welcome to Eastern Bias, episode number 61. This is Chef Hayes in the great state of Maine. Joining me tonight, as always, from Boston. I guess I'm doing the normal show intro, even though this is a live thing, and I don't even know how this whole thing works. It's Joe Gravelisa. Joe, how are you tonight?
I'm a little aggravated. It took us like a half hour. I had this great idea of doing a live show, which turned out to be a very bad idea. Lowell just got pretty easily beat by Quinnipiac. That was not very competitive, honestly, other than the first period and maybe a little stretch of the third. And so I'm pretty worried. Quinnipiac is starting to look like a juggernaut. And I suppose I shouldn't be surprised by that. They did only lose 3 games all year. But I didn't expect them to beat Lowell so handily. Yeah, although I guess going into the game, the interesting thing about it was that you just really had no idea what to expect. And there we go. So Quinnipiac looked very sharp tonight. They're a very good team. They're deep. They're quick. Annis obviously not hindered at all by that injury, scoring a very nice goal. So here we go. It's going to be BC and Quinnipiac, and Hockey East is down to one last team, and it's all on us, I guess.
It feels so good to know that we started off so well and ended so poorly as a league. Just so poorly. What a weekend of crashing and burning across the board for
it was
our conference.
It was very poor. It's kind of funny is last year, BC was the only Hockey East team to get knocked out by a non-Hockey East team in the tournament.
Oh, that's right.
This year, we were the only team to make it through the regionals. And in fact, up until actually, no, we were the only team to beat a Western team. Is that right?
I mean, yeah, it has to be right.
BC and Lowell were the only, because BC and Lowell were the only 2 to even make it to this stage, the last 8. And Lowell got there by beating Yale. And so there we go.
That's it. That's how it works. Yeah, it is. So yeah, now I'm pulling myself back into reality of hockey from technical of making this work. But yes, so our Frozen Four is Quinnipiac, BC, North Dakota, Denver. So it turns out that the teams from the East won the East and Northeast regionals, and the team from the West won the West and Midwest regionals. What a surprise overall right there.
There's a little bit of surprise there.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah. I mean, it's given that there were four
It's not
Eastern teams.
it's not surprising that Eastern teams won the Eastern regionals and Western teams won the Western regionals, but it's not necessarily the way you would have thought. I mean, Quinnipiac was no surprise.
Yeah.
North Dakota was no surprise.
Yeah, I think Denver was a bit of a surprise. And
it wasn't really a surprise, like a shocking thing, but St. Cloud obviously had the home advantage. And then but then obviously and then BC winning, that has to be classified as a surprise. It's not, none of these teams going were like stunning. And in fact, you could argue that this is a very sort of blue chip Frozen Four. Well, actually, you couldn't argue it. It's true. You've got the four teams competing are three of the greatest programs in the history of college hockey, and then Quinnipiac, who I believe is the winningest team in college hockey over the past 4 years.
If not, they're darn close to it over the past 4 years.
I forget if they were first and Lowell was third or vice versa, but I know they were 1 and 3, and so that was the storyline.
Yeah, it's we got 4 teams that happen very quickly. I don't know what my other talking points were going to be beyond that, and wow, our league did really, really poorly on the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we should start by talking about tonight's game. There's really not much to say. I think, I know the Lowell fans that I follow on Twitter are really feel like their team kind of melted down a little bit, and to some extent they did. They did have that stretch where they gave up goals in a bunch, and they were making some sloppy mistakes. But I think for the most part, they really just got beat by a better team. You can't really say they beat themselves or anything like that. I think Quinnipiac demonstrated that they're better, that they've got more sort of, what do you call it, sort of that oomph up front, that killer instinct, I guess.
Power. Yeah,
they're just a more powerful team, from top to bottom. Lowell just never really tested them after they fall behind. And really that you don't really expect Lowell to be a team that's coming back anyway. You expect them to be a team that's going to jump out to a lead and defend it. So, of course, they did jump out to a lead, but they were not able to hold on. They did hold on for a while. What was it? How deep into do you have the box score open?
Yeah. My regular computer's having some issues, but I can pull stuff up. Thanks to the CHN app. CHN, we love you. It took until midway through the second for Quinnipiac to start scoring. And, then they seemed to open up pretty heavily with 2 goals in just a couple of minutes. Another goal just a few minutes later, and then capping it off a little deep into the third to set the win up there. So Lowell, from that power play goal from Zink 3 minutes in, was able to hold on to a lead till mid to late into the second period. But I just saw your tweet. I'm seeing a tweet from you. We'll figure it out in a minute here. But they had something for a while there, but were not able to capitalize on that and move forward.
So in order to get Boule into the show, you're going to have to Google Hangouts, invite him, by the way.
Yep, I'll do that right now if he wants to DM me an email, which he may or may not have already.
I believe it's chrisboule@gmail.com.
You think I would know that.
So if you want to try to loop him in while I talk a little bit through the box score of tonight's Lowell versus Quinnipiac game, you've got, as we mentioned, Zink scored the first goal. Do they not have the goals in this box score on NCAA.com in chronological?
Would you really trust a NCAA.com box score?
I wouldn't. Although here we go, scoring. Well, nope, it just doesn't want to load for me. So clearly, I don't remember other than Ennis who scored.
You need who scored? Because I got it.
Who scored and when?
Landon Smith scored the first one for Quinnipiac at 10:33. Anna scored the second one at 12:11. Scott Davidson scored the third one at 17:51. And Travis St. Dennis scored the fourth one in the third at 16:06. Shout out to CHN coming through where the NCAA couldn't. You want to follow that up there at all?
Well, I mean, no. Just Quinnipiac really just came out and pretty much dominated the game. Shots were 35 to – I can't be right. Was it 35 to 15? 35 to 15 were the shots. It didn't even feel that bad.
That sounds like a Denver Ferris State number.
Yeah, I mean, Denver dumped. We'll get to that. We'll get to that game.
That was not a close game. Denver
The
looked done.
difference is Ferris showed a little bit more of an ability to actually finish the few chances they had. Although I think Ferris had, a more even go of it for parts of the game than Lowell did tonight. I mean, just not a lot going on. Not a lot going on. So, did we get Chris on?
I sent him an invite.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and see if.
Yeah, we have to wait and see if he picks up the invite. Then we'll drop him in there.
So, are Quinnipiac our overlords now? Are they the favorite to win this thing?
Well, that's what I want to ask you: is do we want to claim Quinnipiac as our own?
Well, that's a separate. First of all, I don't.
You don't? Well, I was thinking, let's claim Quinnipiac as our own and preemptively turn Notre Dame into it was the Big Ten's fault.
Well, I'm not claiming them as our own right now, given circumstances.
Oh, yeah, I guess. I see. I'm going to because it feels good to me.
Well, I guess they're your last hope, right?
Yeah, they're pretty much my last hope. Yeah, this is all I got. So they're what I'm riding on this because it ain't gonna be North Dakota. It really can't be Denver after what just happened.
Well, you need to talk a little bit about that too. Speaking of games that were not competitive.
Yeah, I stopped. I had to make dinner, and I didn't feel bad about making dinner during that game after all, because that game went south and it just kept flying south. So it happened.
It's tough to pick a favorite right now. I think.
What a group of programs. You were saying it's blue chip earlier. I mean, man, and I think you tweeted earlier. It's three of the most decorated programs in college hockey. The only other ones that you could say would be there are, if you're picking like these are the top names who should be there. It's BU, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nobody else. Michigan.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the only other teams that could be there otherwise.
And here's your question with regards to Quinnipiac. Are they the strongest program right now that's never won a national championship?
I would think so. It's them or Lowell.
Yeah.
That's it.
In terms of recent form anyway.
Yeah, the past maybe 5-year success, it's probably Quinnipiac or Lowell. I think that's probably at least a little bit Eastern bias. There's got to be a Western team we're not thinking of, but it's.
Well, you can say St. Cloud. You can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, Miami's come really close to winning a national championship. But I was going to say not too much.
They came within about a minute of one a couple of years ago.
They did, or even a lucky goal in overtime, which not that anyone would know.
Turns out the luck wasn't on their side.
It was not. Who else is like a really solid program right now that hasn't won a national championship? Obviously, UNH.
Not a solid program.
Not a solid program.
Providence. Oh, hey, Chris is here. Not Providence because they won one last year. TBD. Actually, I could say Providence.
Yeah, no. Nebraska Omaha has been really solid. But I would argue not even close to the level of Quinnipiac.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say Uno's pretty close to it, but they're not quite there, in the overalls.
Quinnipiac for a solid 5 years now has been very, very good.
I mean, they were right there with Lowell a couple of years ago in that Frozen Four.
Right. And they're the number one overall seed. You could argue they're the favorite now that they just took on a really good Power Conference team. I don't know. Is Hockey East elite?
I don't know anymore, man.
Is Hockey East an elite conference?
Well, we were the SEC, but it's seeming more like we're the Big Ten now.
Yeah, it's that's kind of what it feels like. BC waving the flag, and this is not the most impressive BC team, but they made it work. I don't know. Should I start talking about BC or?
No, let's work backwards like normal human beings or something like that.
All right. Where do you want to go from that? I don't have that much to say about the Quinnipiac Lowell game. I'm sure Chris, if he figures out how to.
Yeah,
connect.
Chris is here, but we can't hear him yet.
He probably doesn't know that.
Oh, we can hear him now. We can hear him now.
There he is. Chris.
Hi.
What's up, buddy?
Nothing. Just exhausted.
So I'm sure that you're pumped. The state of hockey will be represented in the Frozen Four.
Oh, yeah, I'm thrilled.
So give me your thoughts on that game. I mean, my impression of it was Really, it was just very simple to break down. Quinnipiac was better. They had more killer instinct up front. They were better at possessing the puck. Lowell couldn't get much of anything going, and that was that. There's not too much to say. It's not that I don't think Quinnipiac did anything in particular to shut Lowell down. I don't think Lowell made too many huge blunders. I just think the better team won, which is kind of a rare thing in this tournament. You just don't really see one team come out and it's like, yep, this team's better. Yeah. How often did that happen this weekend?
Yeah.
Let's see. Denver BU. That was a good example of it. And Quinnipiac RIT. Were there any other really dominant performances this weekend?
Not in my regional.
No, yeah, you probably got one of the better ones. Do we say North Dakota over Northeastern?
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot that happened because it was all the way back on Friday afternoon.
It was game number 1.
That was a no-no.
Do we say North Dakota over Michigan?
Yeah, they didn't destroy them. Like, that was a pretty close game up until late, and then the better team won, but they didn't just coast. They had to earn that one.
Yeah, so we're saying the sort of dominating blowouts were North Dakota Northeastern, BU Denver, and Denver Ferris State. Not Denver Ferris State, Quinnipiac Lowell.
Yeah.
Even though Denver Ferris State ended up a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, it was garbage time. So, but Chris, give me your thoughts on Quinnipiac's performance tonight, and does this make them the favorites going into the Frozen Four?
I don't know if it makes them the favorites, but it's pretty close. I mean, they're an absolutely tremendous team, and they showed it tonight. They went and made short work of the second best defense in the country. And I mean, Sam Annis also, his performance the past two days has been absolutely out of this world. He's probably playing with a separated shoulder. I'm like people will say like, oh well, he's a hockey player or whatever, which is dumb. But he went and probably shouldn't even have played this weekend, looking at how much pain he was in yesterday, and the goal he scored tonight was just absolutely otherworldly. One of the best goals this season, probably in all of hockey.
Quinnipiac had maybe the two of the top highlight goals of the entire weekend.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Very, very nice.
The Quinnipiac's defense didn't really have to do all that much. They really controlled the game. Lowell. I mean, I don't remember what the shot total was. Shep, you might have that, but it was a lot to a little from what it looked like
for tonight.
Yeah.
It was what was it, 33-15? We said.
That's what you said. Yeah. My computer's still
the NCAA, which is an extremely trustworthy organization.
I would trust the NCAA with everything.
The shots were 35-15.
Wow. Well, if that's from their box score, it might be wrong because we noticed some errors this weekend while we were there. But
we do have metrics already from the good folks at College Hockey News. Oh, no, we don't. It says you can click on it, and then it says not available yet. So never mind. I have to imagine Corsi was similarly dominating.
Yeah.
And so now Quinnipiac will be going up against, and I know you don't want me to jump ahead, so I won't, but Quinnipiac's going to be going up a team that, quite frankly, in BC, their blueprint to beat Quinnipiac is probably going to be to play a lot like the way UMass Lowell plays. Except the difference is I think BC obviously has more skill up front in transition. They're more dangerous in transition and can really make you pay with limited opportunities. With 20 to 25 shots on goal, BC can get 3 or 4 goals. Most teams cannot.
I think that BC matches up very well against Quinnipiac. I think that it's going to be it should be the better game of the Frozen Four.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because you said the transition thing, and it was just patently obvious this weekend that Boston College can have a bad game, and the other teams, whatever other team is on the ice, a defender can make a mistake in the neutral zone, and it's a golden scoring opportunity. They've been doing it all season, and they did it. They did it multiple times this weekend, and they're also just an absolutely terrifying team on offense. That Quinnipiac's defense is not as good as some of the teams that BC's faced in Hockey East, and it could. I think that will even out the game.
Interesting. I guess another thing that could be a factor is that Quinnipiac seems like a chippy kind of team that might take some penalties and give BC's power play a chance to make them pay.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Quinnipiac and BC, come to think of it, could be two of the, what's a nice way to say this? Teams that play with a lot of feistiness. Two of the feistier teams in the nation, I think it's fair to say. Chippy, yeah.
As opposed to Chappie.
Yes.
Which is a bad movie.
And also a guy on UMass Lowell. Yeah, that was so it could be a testy game. Special teams could become a factor. I do think that, and we have 2 weeks to talk about this, so I'll try not to get into it too much. We'll have a whole show next
about it a lot.
reviewing the games. But you know what? I'm doing a nice thing here, and I'm delaying the time it takes before we talk about how bad BU got destroyed. So
I've been waiting for that ever since I got on.
There's a lot of other hockey to get through.
Let's you know what? Let's just, since we mentioned it, let's just go there.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So that was domination. I just want to say first of all, before I crap on BU, I think Denver
Wildly out of order.
I think Denver is unbelievable. I picked them. So last week I was waffling on this, and I think I said St. Cloud State to come out of the regional. But when I submitted my bracket, I ultimately went with Denver not only to win the regional, but to win the national championship. I'm back in love with them. I think that they are a really complete team. They've got superstars up front and on the blue line. And they just play really well. I really like their team and the way they've been playing down the stretch. So on that sense, BU ran into a really good team that was ready to play a great game. On the other sense, holy crap, what an awful performance by BU in a tournament where almost every game is close, to get completely destroyed. That was the sign of a team that, for all the ability that they have, and I think BU is very good, they clearly did not think that they were really contenders to do much of anything, and seem to have mailed it in, because, boy, that was a dreadful performance.
I want to disagree with you on that statement because I just think I don't think teams intentionally mail it in.
Well, no. Obviously, they're not sitting in the locker room thinking, screw it. Well, what are we doing tomorrow, guys?
We got no chance of this. So we might as well get blown out by as much as we can because I got tea times.
Right.
I got to get to.
I don't think anyone actually thinks that way, but there is a certain genuine self-belief that a team can muster up at this point of the year. I think you saw it out of Boston College this weekend. They were a team that we've seen a lot of teams with a lot of draft picks and a lot of skill get to this part of the year. They're not playing that great, and it's like, whatever, like Minnesota every year.
Go Gophers.
BU, let's be honest, fairly often. Not last year, but we've seen it in some of those Jack Parker teams late in the Jack Parker tenure.
When they actually even made the tournament.
Right. Well, when they made the tournament, I'm thinking of it. I know that aging myself, you don't remember all these years, but thinking back to 07 and thinking back to even just 2012, pretty good BU teams. They weren't great BU teams, but they were good enough that they certainly had a lot of draft picks, had a lot of talent.
Well, 2012 had a lot of its own very awful issues not related to anything on the ice.
Well, that is true.
Which I think didn't it obviously impacted the product on the ice very poorly and was very awful.
But just with as far as BC goes, I thought that this weekend was one of the best coaching jobs by Jerry York, in a career full of good ones. To have a team with all of that firepower and basically to get them to buy into playing a really defense-first game, sort of be very patient, smash and grab if you're a soccer fan, really a lot, it really sort of changed up the way they've been playing. They were, you saw a lot of BC sending one forechecker aggressively and dropping two back. So it wasn't like a full-on trap because they would send the first guy in, but the other two were dropping back. It's not something that you always see out of BC. So they're often a lot more aggressive than that. I think the forwards did such a great job of getting back and supporting the D in the defensive zone and just really kind of packing it. It's sort of like you see Lowell do so well, that sort of box-in-one type of defense. And BC did a great job of really identifying the flaws in their game last week that caused them so many problems, focusing on those and sort of just changing the way they played and really focusing on what they needed to do to fix their mistakes and earn a couple victories, despite the fact that I don't think any of those guys that came to this team were recruited to thinking that that's the way BC was going to win games. BC traditionally wins games by nuking teams with just ridiculous bombs away offense, and that's not at all what happened this weekend. And I think that Jerry York's ability to push the right buttons and get his team to play the way they need to play to get through, goes to show what he has a hot take. He's a good coach. Jerry York is a good hockey coach.
Well, Joe, as much as it's absolutely true that all the stuff you're saying about how well they played and how they adjusted this weekend and all of that, like all of the praise that I just gave them a couple minutes ago. Can we just talk about for a minute that they really almost completely imploded last night?
They did. That is very true.
Yeah, I was going to get to that point, which is how terrible did you feel last night? Did you think it was all going to fall apart, or did you think?
I actually felt pretty good. I mean, I really didn't think they were going to blow the lead, even when it got to 3-2. I was mostly just annoyed, because they got to 3-0, and I was like, all right, here we go, nice easy win, here we go, and that was not to be.
Yeah, I was kind of half watching.
You've done a great job of deflecting us away from talking about how bad BU was.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, well, I wanted to go in reverse order. We'll get to it in natural reverse order.
All right. Yes, I was not that scared, actually. I really felt like they were going to do enough to get through it, and really they didn't. They got very, very lucky. But you got to give Duluth credit.
Delos's play was absolutely incredible.
Oh, that was incredible.
And, by the way, I don't know if it was intentional or not because it's tough to tell from the GIFs. There's only so much you can tell looking at that. But it looked like McCoshen got a little bit of a stick lift on Farley there, the guy who whiffed on it for Duluth in the open net.
That makes sense. I couldn't tell, honestly, at all.
He definitely had the stick in the neighborhood of Farley's stick, and I think it lifted it up just a little bit, enough to help him whiff. So that was
that would make sense because he whiffed badly.
Right. And so there's one game-saving play, and then another by Cangelosi. And I guess that really sums up, the defense getting back and supporting the offense, the offense getting back and supporting the defense, and how important that was to BC this weekend.
And another lucky break that they had was at the beginning of that flurry when Tony Cameronese had that look on Demko up close to the blue line, and that was a very good look, and there was a decent amount of net open there, and the stick just shattered.
Right. Yeah, no, they definitely got some breaks, but you're going to need to, obviously, at this point of the year. And, they were never going to dominate any of the teams they could have faced this weekend. Not the way they're playing right now. It's just not. They're not a dominant type team, but they clearly have the ability to combine the skill they have with an ability to kind of put it together. And I don't know if that's going to translate because I think the other three teams that they're going to be going up against in the Frozen Four are much better than the teams that they faced this weekend, which is not to say Duluth and Harvard aren't good, because I think they are.
But Harvard's been a bit of a tire fire for a while.
They have, but they have so much skill. I mean,
yeah.
You look at the guys they have and the way BC been struggling in their own end, and that had the potential. If BC played like they did against Northeastern, Harvard could have put 4 up on them.
Harvard's defense is just so crappy, for lack of a better descriptive word. It's just they have Mattsson's so talented in that, and it's just that they don't really have they don't really have that pad in front of him, and if that top line doesn't do what it can and should do, they're going to struggle, which is again why they ended up doing less than nothing against BC.
And then BC did, obviously, for the second time, a great job of keeping that line off the board. They did not score.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got to give BC credit for that. I don't think, I thought that they did a good job generating possession and sort of creating chances, but BC did a great job of limiting them to, not great chances.
Totally. If you can neutralize that line, it's obviously it's not guaranteed you're going to beat Harvard, but you're going to that's a lot of the job, and they did that, and it was a very convincing performance.
So really just quick update that was sent to me. The Gifford Cats are 9th in our bracket pool right now out of 47 entries. Jack Murray, who I don't know if he listens to the program, follows us on Twitter, is in first place. He had everything right except he had Providence beating Duluth, but he did have BC winning that regional. Most people's brackets are very bad, as you can probably tell.
Because they went Eastern?
I think the Hockey East bias certainly had something to do with that.
We got 6 teams in the tournament. We must be good. Turns out that whole line of thinking was wrong.
We got NCHD. I mean, that's what happened last year. The NCHD had 6 teams in the tournament and just got destroyed. Shout out to BC Hockey Blog in 4th place in the bracket pool. Mark Coogan, Fear the Triangle, 6th place. Nice.
Ooh.
Very nice.
That's the best finish UMass has had in years.
I really wanted Boyle to make the Frozen Four so I could say someone from UMass made the Frozen Four, but no such.
There's a first time for everything.
Yeah. So yeah, but the Cats are hammering every member of the BC Interruption staff. I'm in 22nd, which I think might be the best of all the various BCI staff. Grant's in 39th. Laura's in 27th, I think. So good for the Cats. They
39th, and he deserves it.
They have Quinnipiac winning the national championship. I'm strongly considering tipping off some dopey local news channels in the greater Hamden area and telling them about the magical cat that predicts Quinnipiac to win the national championship. Because doesn't that seem like something they'd spend 10 minutes talking about on Connecticut?
Oh yes. I can tell you the names of all of those stations after we talk.
Can you please do that? Because I really would like to do that. That would really be awesome.
That is something that they would probably do.
Yeah, let me know off air who I should be reaching out to. It would be some nice publicity for the shelter, and just hilarious too to continue to point out. They picked the Northeast Regional perfectly, so I guess someone had the ability to do it. There was another game in the Northeast Regional that involved the Hockey East team that we haven't mentioned yet. Providence. What was up with that? I really thought they were going to win that game.
They did.
Terrible.
And after they fell behind, they looked great for 5 or 6 minutes. And I know score effects and everything, but they looked like they were ready to take the lead and pull away. And I really do think that they have a lot more skill up front than they let on. I was shocked at how inept they looked offensively in their last 2 games of the season. And I guess it just became one of those days twice.
Well, it's okay. They were due for a couple of those days.
That's true, and I'm glad they used them up now.
Yeah, this was about as good as I was going to get.
I will say that Providence has just about unlimited goodwill with me, but they really pushed it with the 2 straight weeks of making BC start at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Was that the earliest BC started a game in weeks?
The 9 o'clock start yesterday?
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, what time did they start on Friday?
9:12.
9:12.
So the 9 o'clock start yesterday was the earliest game BC had played since the Vermont series.
Go figure. So thanks a lot, Providence. But I can't be mad. I still love you.
I hate you.
I hope Tanev signs with the Bruins. Sight of his greatest triumph.
I hope they all leave. I hope Nate Lehman gets hired somewhere else.
Oh, you know what? this is becoming stream of consciousness right now, but Wisconsin hiring Granato means they will not be poaching.
No, but did you see the other tweet from Buccigross about another job in the Big Ten that might be opening up?
Well, I mean, I think I would argue that that's the highest profile job that's been legitimately open in a long time. Other than, I guess, BU. But, is Michigan higher profile than BU?
Does Michigan pay more than BU? And here's the thing, though. We can't go by Red's pay because Red has been probably
100,000.
Yeah, so he's probably getting paid more than what they would actually pay someone new.
So it's the tweet, you didn't explain it. It was about the Michigan job.
Yeah, I believe it's from Butchergrass that there's talk that Berenson and a couple players, I can't even remember who it was multiple names.
I don't think anyone else was mentioned. I think it was just Lorenz.
You think it was just Wierenski?
I think so.
Okay, never mind then. But there were multiple names. Just might be moving on to other options.
Oh yeah, I mean like
retirement, for instance.
Yeah.
And so my argument is because the North Dakota job wasn't really open, to Bradbury.
Yeah.
This would be the highest profile opening we've seen in a long, long time, with a tip of the cap to BU. But I think
that job also wasn't that open either.
Yeah, I think they were definitely keeping it to a more limited pool.
I'll be curious to see how limited Michigan keeps it.
That's true. I mean, Michigan definitely does have the Michigan man thing going on. Where I think about BC's pool is going to be limited. Realistically, they're probably going to hire a BC alum, and Michigan tends to do the same thing, right?
Yes, I would think so. I mean, especially given that, it's Michigan. They're all this sort of insular weird community, and they've just gone out there and they've embraced that insular weird thing by hiring Harbaugh for football. And I can't imagine how they wouldn't want to just that's working out for them. It seems like, so I'd imagine they'll want to keep doing that. And they hired what's his name from UConn, as Angry 99 Banner tweeting at me just made me remember that they hired what's his name from UConn to be AD. And I believe he went there. So they
Kavanaugh from Michigan.
Oh, well, that's something special right there that we just came up with.
I kind of doubt that he has the profile necessary to land that job.
No. I mean, do you think, regardless of if Michigan wants to go alum or not, do you think Norm or Nate has that profile?
I think so. I mean, Nate definitely does.
Nate won a national title.
He won a national title and built a program that won another.
Yeah.
And, I mean, a Michigan man, an average Michigan man, one who does such great things, is likely to know the name of Providence College. They played in basketball at some point or whatever. Unlikely to know the name UMass Lowell.
That is true. That is definitely true.
I mean, I love you, Lowell. We love you.
Love you very much, and we're very sorry.
But I mean, I don't love you when BU plays you because I find myself death. But you just don't have the same clout as Providence, I think, just in terms of general clout.
Yeah, that's accurate, and especially because Providence, they did the thing. They won the title. Well, we got very sidetracked and backtracked.
Yeah, we did. So should we get back to hockey from the weekend?
Yeah, what games haven't we talked about yet?
Well, we really didn't talk about the BU game, but I do we didn't talk that much about Denver Ferris State. So if we want to take a second, we kind of knocked through some of the Northeast Regional. We haven't knocked through most of the East Regional, but we can do that eventually. We just knocked through the championship game of the East. Let's clean up the East Regional so it's clean. And then we'll move on to the Midwest and the West.
I don't know that much. So I didn't see the Loyola game, so I have zero thoughts on it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either because on ESPN3 there's other games on television.
Right. So I don't know.
But Chris saw it. Chris, tell us what you thought.
Yeah, I was watching it in the before game for BC and then during. But it was pretty much what I expected. It ended 3-2. Extreme, obviously the two defensive teams continued to be extremely defensive. Yale had really, really big problems scoring, had a couple of golden opportunities, and just didn't get it done. So it was status quo, and Lowell looked pretty good. I don't know if they were necessarily the better team. I really think that it was pretty even each way, and overtime starts, they get a goal less than 2 minutes in, and that was it. It was actually a beautiful goal, and from what I remember, most of the goals in that game were pretty high skill goals. But yeah, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot happening other than Boyle and Lyon making solid saves.
The other game there would be the 4-0 Quinnipiac RIT game. We didn't actually we didn't call that a beatdown from our list of beatdowns. Should we have?
I said that it was a comfortable win.
Okay.
It was the first period wasn't comfortable. RIT had a few chances.
I mean, it took to the third till Quinnipiac opened the gates.
Yeah, once Quinnipiac settled down, got a second goal, it was over.
Do you want to hear me try to pronounce this name?
Sure.
Soren. Did I get the first name right? Soren?
Yep.
Okay, now this is spelled Jonzzon. Johnson? All right,
Try again.
Malay. Johnson?
Do you want help?
How else can you pronounce that?
It's Soren Janssen.
Oh, it's the European thing.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, I'm an American. I love my freedom fries. I guess that's our recap of the East region.
Moving on.
The East region. I'm an American. I love freedom fries.
I mean, it was ultimately pretty unremarkable. The best team came in.
The best teams won both games.
Yeah.
And the best team won the third game.
Yeah. I mean, and the team that, in theory, I know that there's always going to be doubters. I've been one of them until tonight. I've been converted. I am a member of the Church of Latter-day Quinnipiac Believers. But based on record, Quinnipiac should have gone in there and cleaned up, and they did.
Yeah.
So on we go. Midwest.
Yeah, we can talk about the Midwest Regional now, which is good because now we're saving the West Regional for last.
Speaking of teams that, showed up and demonstrated why they're number one, North Dakota suddenly looking scary.
Northeastern scored first, which had us all going crazy on Friday afternoon. But
I don't think I've ever seen such shared communal joy on my Twitter timeline.
What is the most hated team in this tournament? Is it North Dakota?
Nationally?
Yeah, nationally.
It's got to be North Dakota.
It's got to be North Dakota.
BC's probably number two. I don't know.
BC's more of a regional hate.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. Well, the other thing is, this would be a great poll question, maybe for the offseason. Is who is more hated, BC or BU?
Yes, I think it's us.
I think and this is a very self-serving thing to say, and I'm sorry, but the thing is, I honestly don't care. So, is that I think that the natural state of things, like all else being equal, is that people hate you guys more. But because we've been annoyingly good a lot, I think people probably would say they hate us more if we did a poll right now.
The historical hate ties directly into us, yes.
Yeah, and I think that when BU is really good, like they were last year, you see just a molten lava level of hatred that I'm not sure that I see for any other team. I don't know, Chris. You have more of a neutral perspective on this, and you kind of observe college hockey fan thoughts and behaviors. What do you think?
I think that both of your schools are just equally detestable. Honestly, I see a lot in the to be honest, I see in Boston. itself, and this is a thing that goes across sports, I noticed that there's a lot of people that really, really dislike BC. This like across the board with everything, especially hockey. People that are not BC really don't like BC, and I didn't know that before I moved here. But when it goes nationally, I I don't know. It's
I think nationally,
there
all
are
programs are hated, but like not
what,
in an intense, burning way. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but other than maybe Cornell,
you cut out part of that.
I'm not sure that there's. Is there like a Western program that has an intense, burning hatred for either one of these? I think North Dakota hates BC.
I think North Dakota hates BU.
That's true.
I think other
Minnesota probably hates BU.
Yeah, Minnesota and BU don't really have a good relationship, I don't think.
I do think that BC has attracted some national, like for instance, we had St. Cloud State fans telling us how much they hate us in our mentions on BC Interruption this
yeah,
week.
but do they hate BC or do they hate BC Interruption?
Fair. That's a totally fair. That's a totally fair point. No, I think that they just. I mean, look, whenever a team is in the running, as BC's been, people are gonna hate them, and that's.
And especially when your team's not in the running, as St. Cloud State has been.
Can't spell lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament without SCSU.
Can't spell grit, heart, and character without SCSU. Because if you've got grit, heart, and character, that is how you would spell grit, heart, and character, is with an SCS and U, even though they're not really in that whole thing.
That was one of the most fun games of the weekend, as Ferris State beating St. Cloud. And I just want to say that I have no reason to dislike St. Cloud, by the way. I mentioned that in my likability article. There's nothing about St. Cloud that I dislike, but, it was just kind of funny to watch them lose. Does that make me an ass?
I dislike them for the Gaudreau thing.
I don't dislike that. That was more, my dislike was aimed more at Starman, not at St. Cloud State. I have nothing against St. Cloud State. Their fans seem awesome. A little intense. A little intense, but as tends to be the case with the Western fans, no sense of humor.
I think that there's a little bit of regional hate for them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've been a sort of chip on the shoulder type of program. Not too dissimilar to maybe a Northeastern where they're overlooked in the region. And so maybe I wouldn't be surprised if they were a-holes about their success.
I mean, they've got so much, What is the actual connection to Herb Brooks there? Is there any direct connection to Herb Brooks? Or did they just name the arena after him?
I don't know. I mean, it's Minnesota. I think everything's named after either Herb Brooks or
if they just named the arena after Herb Brooks because he was Herb Brooks, then I think that's just... Find somebody from your history instead of taking everybody else's. Yeah. So
as the great American that you are.
Oh, he did coach them.
Yeah, Herb Brooks is everyone's.
That's true. Every Brooks belongs to us all.
He coached them for 2 years. But apparently 2 years, and then...
I mean, wouldn't that be like Northeastern naming their basketball facility after Jim Calhoun?
Yeah, exactly. Because then he turned around and he coached the Gophers for a while. So
or UMass becoming the John Calipari Center.
Oh, excuse me, he coached them for 1 year. I was looking at the record wrong. And then he coached the Gophers for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Actually, you know what? He coached the Gophers for 7 seasons. Then he coached the Olympic team. I was reading this whole thing wrong. He coached the Gophers for 7 seasons. He coached the Olympic team. He coached a Swiss team. Then he coached St. Cloud for a season. Then he coached Utica for a year. And then he stopped coaching teams.
Okay, so not too much time at St. Cloud.
No, not nearly enough to earn a name on a building. That team went 25-10-1. Well, I guess that's a good record.
Yeah, but building naming good.
Also,
that was a fun game. St. Cloud lost, and not only did the thing about this game too is that Ferris State. It wasn't like one of those things where they jumped out to a lead and then just barely hung on to it. St. Cloud came back, sent it to OT, and then boom, Ferris State jumped on it. It reminded me a little bit of the Yale-Minnesota game. a couple years back.
Also, why is it the National Hockey Center? Just, I wasn't finished with my point there. I'm done now. Thank you.
It's a good question. Certain
If the
things
US
I don't know the answer to.
if the U.S. national team development program trained there, it would be the National Center. But they've got another rink that they use in a different
Who is
state.
the all-time assist leader for the U.S. national team development program?
I think that's Jeremy Bracco.
I think you might be right. Thatcher Demko is still one assist behind him for the season.
All right, back to real hockey. Yes, I thought it was great watching St. Cloud lose to Ferris State.
Was that the most fun game of the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, because St. Cloud did rally. You could say St. Cloud State, it was like a bad Saturday night. They booted and then they rallied. They went out there. They were down 4-2, even 3-1 at one point, and then they scored 2 goals in the third to force an overtime. But bam, 18 seconds in, boom.
The Denver
Jared
Ferris
Van
was
Wormer.
a really fun game too. I mean, because I'm trying to think back to like what games were like super super crazy awesome, and like even though Providence getting upset was an upset, that game was not fun. That was in fact a pretty boring game in my opinion. I don't know if anyone disagrees.
No, as also being there, it was.
Yeah, I don't think that was a particularly exciting
Yellow
exception.
was probably exciting if you were watching it. That was not.
Yeah.
All right. What else?
Yeah.
North Dakota. Everyone hates them, but they look really good right now.
Yeah, we were talking about the Midwest Regional, I think, and so we had to get through some of that stuff with North Dakota beating Northeastern 6-2, and then we had Michigan doing God's work.
Speaking of God's work, look, God doesn't pick his messengers sometimes. Thank you, North Carolina tonight. Go Heels.
I root for 2 teams, Boston and whoever beats Notre Dame. Should we get shirts made up that say that?
I root I root for 13 teams. BC, BU, Northeastern, Providence, UMass Lowell, Vermont, UConn, blah blah blah, Quinnipiac, and whoever beats Notre Dame.
We'll get those. Those will be more timeless than Make Northeastern Great Again hats.
Big Hockey East. Wow, well, Hockey East needs to be made great again, clearly.
We went out there and did a stinker.
Yeah.
And speaking of stinkers, that would be Michigan. Well, it wasn't even a stinker because it was an overtime game. But yeah, Michigan did that deed there, and then they went out there, and it was 5-2 in that regional final, but it took till late in the third for North Dakota to turn it on, much like Denver today.
That was a fun game. I had the split screen going at a bar in Worcester, and you had BU on one TV, and then Michigan, North Dakota. So they didn't have my undivided attention, but it seemed like a game that North Dakota was mostly in control of, but Michigan was really fast and did a good job of creating chances the other way. And they scored a sweet, sweet goal. I don't know who it was Michigan did to tie it up 2-2, and I started thinking, oh, here we go.
JT Topper.
Of course. Who else?
Both their goals of the day.
He's very, very good. I think his first goal was nice, too. But North Dakota did just enough, and they go into the Frozen Four. And if Quinnipiac's not the favorite, North Dakota probably is. I think that's fair to say. I mean, the only thing about North Dakota that maybe gives me a little pause is that I wouldn't consider Northeastern or Michigan to be a defensive juggernaut. So, so as scary as North Dakota's offense looked, and I think their offense looked the best of anyone's. Especially, that first line is just unreal. It's gonna be a different test for them, to face a team with an elite defense. Although, does Denver have an elite defense? Not in the way that Then again, I don't think you would think of any of these teams as defensive teams that are left. Although Quinnipiac is top 5.
Yes, you would.
North Dakota's high too.
Yeah, right now, I guess Lowell's dropped in scoring defense. Lowell is now fourth with 1.88 goals given up per game. North Dakota moved up to 1.86 goals a game.
Well, they're not going to play themselves, so
Yeah, Quinnipiac's 1.9 in fifth. Boston College is 1.98 in seventh, and Denver is 2.3 in 13th.
interesting.
So defense is a good thing, kids.
Wins championships.
Oh,
allegedly.
Well, I think that's the only sort of asterisk on North Dakota. But I mean, they looked great. They shredded Northeastern, who obviously is very good and is playing very well. Although maybe they were still hungover. That's entirely possible. I was thinking that, like that could be a factor here.
Northeastern?
Yeah, they probably consumed a lot of alcohol over the weekend.
That's reasonable. I get it.
Yeah, and it's totally understandable. I wouldn't even be upset about it.
It's a slow burn off. You got to kind of work it off slowly over time.
Yeah.
Kind of drift down there. So I guess all we have left is the West Regional at this. Did I just say the West Regional?
Yeah, BU. I mean, do you have thoughts on what you witnessed other than just that it was bad?
I don't know if I said this on the air or not, but I was super happy that I was making dinner while this game was going on because it went really poorly and I didn't miss anything. I mean, to go down.
The first 10 minutes, BU played really well.
Yeah, and then they let in a lot of goals.
They did. They did.
They let in 6 goals without a single answer.
Yeah.
They pulled Sean Maguire again in favor of Connor Lacouvé. Not a good look. Not a good look. Yet, for the second time in a row, at least that they've been out to Minneapolis, they go out there. They look like garbage. They pretty much get themselves directly exited from the tournament. And that's that. We all move on.
How do you judge BU's season?
Meh.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day. That it seemed like there was a lot of talk about maybe this year will be better after even with Eichel leaving. This was a couple years ago. That they'll be a little bit more mature. They'll be a little bit more talented. I don't think that quite panned out how everyone thought it was going to pan out, and there wasn't quite everything there that they thought would be there. And it was an okay season. It could have been better. It could have been worse.
When I think about it from sort of an outside perspective, I think at the beginning of the year, I thought that a performance like what BU just had was equivalent to where I sort of projected out their talent level. I thought they were a 3 seed type of team like BC last year. Nothing special, maybe 1 or 2 tournament games, and that would be a fine season as they continue to bring in these recruits. But as I watched them play and start to develop a little bit through the middle of the season, the freshmen were better than I thought they would be. They seemed like they were really playing well. Their possession numbers were good, and I thought, okay, this is actually a pretty solid team. I don't know if they were really on the level of top teams, but I thought they were a team that could do a little damage. So I think that ultimately, from my outside perspective, I think that fading down the stretch, having to play in the octo-finals, getting beat by Lowell in the quarterfinals, and then going out like that makes it a disappointment.
Yeah.
I think that either if they had not shown some of those flashes of promise in the middle of the season, or if they had just not done one of those things, like maybe if they had, I'm going to put the Beanpot aside because obviously that's a whole separate conversation, but if they had hung on, and who knows, that series might have gone entirely differently if they played at Aganis instead of Lowell, although probably not. I think Lowell was better at that
It would
point.
have been longer.
Probably would have been longer.
Which could have meant another win for BU, which could have impacted how some things played out.
Right.
But
I mean, I think that if that combination of things all happening, the last 3 weeks of hockey that BU played, were the week where you lost your bye, the week where you got crunched by Lowell. Well, I'm ignoring the UMass games because those weren't really games; they were borderline.
Well, you shouldn't because
No, you don't.
BU looked bad.
Yeah.
That's true.
The last month and a day from no, the last month from the February 26th, the Notre Dame series, where they beat Notre Dame 3-2, and then went and lost to Notre Dame the second time. They were atrocious from that point out, and that included a sweep of UMass. They looked terrible.
They let UMass score 4 goals in a game.
They had to beat UMass in overtime in the opening game.
Yeah, this was not a good team since Notre Dame. You know, they just were not a good hockey team.
Quinn actually said that I don't know if you read any of the post-game recaps.
Yeah.
The papers, for whatever reason, it felt like we weren't able to bounce back from that really they just lost their confidence at that point. And the fact that the coach was able to identify that and point it out that's pretty telling. I don't know if there was just some sort of change in attitude, or probably less attitude and more so that game really kind of doomed their attempts to get by.
Yeah. I mean, that loss set in motion, a bunch of spiral of things in terms of not getting the bye, which, and not getting that home ice for the second series, which, also impacted where they stood in the pairwise, how that sorted out.
And where they were in the pairwise, they were probably always going to go west anyway, just because even if they were a 2 seed, they were behind BC and Providence and Lowell. Well, they could have been ahead of Lowell, and then maybe they would have been east. I mean, but but it was not a given.
They were doomed from very early in the season, I think, just with some
playing Denver also kind of doomed them too, because Denver is just nasty. And
it's they funny. Did beat Denver, but it was in overtime early in the season. They beat UMass in overtime late in the season.
Sure. I think that it's kind of funny, They're not really like BC last year, but at the beginning of the year when we did our preview show, I said I was like, they'll have a season kind of like BC. That's roughly how they'll be, like BC did last year. And right on down to being a 3 seed and getting beat by Denver. that's how their season went. And maybe if they had gotten a different 2 seed, they could have made it to the next round. And that's how I felt about BC last year too. Like, that wasn't a great BC team, but if they didn't play Denver, maybe they could have won a game in the tournament.
Maybe they could have beat Michigan.
Yeah,
Probably couldn't beat Providence.
Yeah, well. But, there's your quick postmortem on BU. I think we'll have time to delve into that some more.
I think you hit most of what I was going to say on the head there. They looked lethargic for a while, and I think early in the year, they had some bad losses, and that sort of put my mindset in. This probably isn't a team that's going to win the national title. This probably isn't a team that's going to the Frozen Four. They got a little bit better in the middle of the year, but, we could even track back to maybe the Bean Pot and just say, they lost the Bean Pot.
They played great in the Bean Pot final.
Yeah, but they lost that.
Yeah.
And then, their next series was against Lowell, which they managed to get a win at home in overtime, and then they lost 6-3 the next night. And then they tied UNH, and then they just beat UNH by a goal, and then it was the Notre Dame series, and that's it. That's the year right there. I think I almost would argue, I think there's an argument you can make not winning the Bean Pot was like the end of BU's season.
Yeah.
Is that absurd?
That happens a lot to Boston teams. I think there's something to that. I mean, it's such an important moment in the season, and it really can be either a springboard or devastating depending on where your team. Now, granted, Northeastern obviously did not deter them.
Nope. That's right around.
But you do see it from time to time,
I think rightly or wrongly, there's just so much pressure on the kids to win that trophy, and it just absolutely guts them.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. It's just a 4-team tournament. You're already in there.
You win two. That's all. Northeastern did triple that in the Hockey Eastern.
I was thinking that way back in that you've got to win 2 and it's a 4-team tournament thing. When I was thinking today, well, it's dumb that they have all regional teams for the NCAA tournament. That's dumb. Then I remembered, well, wait, they have an all Bean Pot team because it's pretty much the same number of games. The only thing is there isn't a regional consolation game because that would be pointless. But
that would be so NCAA.
No, they couldn't make money on that.
I don't know. Someone would pay to watch it. It would be more. It would be a non-zero amount of dollars.
Nobody pays to watch the games that matter.
More. It's more than zero, which is more than enough for the NCAA.
Shout out to Shaq and Billie Jean King.
Shout out to Shaq and Billie Jean King.
How much do you think they're getting paid for those ads? Like, part of the ads, like, yeah, I agree with like the social mission and all that, but then I'm also like, well, that doesn't mean don't pay them, because you're making money, because they're paying you for these ads.
It's a good question. So yeah, I think we probably will have to do our little postmortems on a number of Hockey East teams. Maybe we'll do some of them next week, and then we'll get into it. A couple weeks after the Frozen Four. After we recap the Frozen Four, the week after we'll bury all the other Hockey East teams and go from there. And we'll probably have a UMass coach to talk about soon too. So
we might not. That's still shaking up slowly. It could be
that we did not really touch on.
I think we hit all the games. I don't think we did. No, I think we hit everything.
We rambled a lot, and it took us a while.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we didn't do that in an efficient manner at all, but we did it. The UMass coaching search. Maybe it's Mark Dennehy. Maybe it's Paul Pearl. Maybe it's somebody else. It could be you.
I think that Dennehy would be... trying to figure out the best way to put this. It would not be a bad hire for UMass, but it would be a better move for Dennehy than it would be for UMass.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I think it would be a very nice career move for Dennehy because I don't think he's really going to be able to do much. I think he's set probably a little too high of a bar with that DaCosta team because I don't think it's really possible to, with any regularity, have Merrimack be that good of a team, that they're going to go to the Hockey East tournament final and the NCAA tournament. I think literally and figuratively the ceiling is much lower at Lawler Arena. And and so you get a chance to, I'm sure that Dennehy would probably still kind of stick to the, finding non-traditional players. But at UMass, you have a little bit more of an opportunity to land some higher-end guys, and you have sort of a better facilities situation to work with. And you have an opportunity to do a little better. And I also think that, expectations right now being as they are, if Dennehy could go to UMass and just instill in them some, system and discipline and make them a tough out at home the way Merrimack has been the entire time Dennehy's been the coach, that would be acceptable performance, at least for 4 or 5 years. I think the natives might start getting restless out there if after 4 years they're not, contending. But I think that he could go out there and kind of do what he's done with Merrimack, even without DaCosta, make them competitive, make them hard to beat at home, bring in some decent players, and get them at least, on the fringe of contention. And I think that would certainly be good enough. I don't think Dennehy is the splash hire that's going to transform the UMass program into a contender to win Hockey East year in year out.
I don't think that he's not God's gift to coaching, but he's a pretty damn good coach. And while we have joked once or twice about Merrimack being a really good team, he's done some pretty good stuff with them. And I think that with the money that UMass has to find players and stuff, I think that he could potentially do something there if he goes. But I don't think he's going there.
Right. Well, let me put it this way. I think he's more likely to, if he does go there, you're more likely to see a slightly better version of what Merrimack has been able to do than you are to see a Lehman or Bazin style turnaround like with Providence and Lowell.
That's fair.
Norm for Amherst. The other candidate here, Pearl. I don't think that that's really a much of a splash hire either. Coach who was sort of left Holy Cross because the time sort of had come for him to leave Holy Cross. He just sort of reached the ceiling there as well, and the ceiling is also lower there. And it's not like Harvard's underperformed the last 2 years, you could argue, at this point. They overperformed and they underperformed at the same time.
No, I think they just underperformed. You look at the talent on that roster at Harvard. They should have made a deeper run at some point.
But you remember 2 years ago, like the talk was fire Donato, and
Right.
that didn't happen.
That's
Right.
going to be the talk next year if they don't retool immediately.
I think at this point, rightfully so. But I don't think Pearl's much of a splash either. I just don't think he's bringing much greatness to the program. And I don't know who would be a splash at this point. Eves?
A splash
on the
would
market.
be like a BU assistant. Yeah, I don't know if that's a splash though.
You don't think Eves is a splash?
I don't think UMass can get a splash hire right now. There's not a lot of those guys out there. Oh
Well,
yeah,
what-
Eves.
yeah.
That's yeah.
What else is Eves going to do at this point? Granted, those last few seasons were not very good, but there were a lot of good seasons before that.
I could see Eves go into like one of those sort of NCHC decent like the next one of those that open up. Maybe wait for a decent one. Like I
There's
don't know,
only 8 teams in that conference.
or whatever. WCHA, even like a Minnesota State. I mean, granted, their coach isn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? Program on
I
that.
don't think he's going to Minnesota State.
Well, I know that because why would they get rid of their coach? They've been pretty successful.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to a WCHA team.
Yeah.
I think he can fall into something better than WCHA.
I mean, I could just as easily not see the guy coach anymore either.
True, he has been around a long time. And
Yeah.
you wonder where Gwozdecki's at. By the way, his name has been conspicuously absent from these coaching searches.
Yeah. I did see something. Speaking of Denver, I did see something today where like a Maine fan was like, "Well, Maine passed over Montgomery or not, maybe not a Maine fan, a Maine somebody was like Maine passed over a Maine well-wisher passed over Montgomery for Gendron, which A, I don't think is true, and B, like if Montgomery had open choice of like Maine or Denver, I'm sure Denver was offering him more money. Like that's the reality of it. Also,
Yeah, I think Denver's definitely a more desirable job.
to that end, shout out to Denver for not just sitting there and saying, let's hire an alum. They went out there, they found a really good coach in Montgomery, and he's done some good things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when they separated from Gwozdecki, we've seen plenty of examples. right at Boston College, for instance, of times where school had a really successful coach, but it felt like the time had come to move on. But then the next guy ended up being a disaster.
Is this Mike Milbury?
Well, no, I'm just talking about BC basketball and football.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So that's a really delicate situation.
And
to get that right, and it looks like they have. So shout out to Denver. Because you could easily say, oh well, they're Denver. Of course they're going to keep getting. But I mean, their crosstown rival is supposed to be a pretty good program too, and that has not been the case.
yeah, and Montgomery himself has even said, I play a totally different style than what they were playing here before. This is a totally different setup, and the players have adapted, and they've done a really good job with it. And I'm lucky that I was able to get that.
Yeah.
And that's something special. Speaking of Colorado College and Colorado Springs and that sort of thing, I think we could solve the attendance problems that were on full display yet again this weekend by just going back to the Broadmoor World Palace and just playing everything 1940s style in Colorado Springs every year. Do you guys agree or disagree with that statement? Nobody wants to admit that they just want to play in Colorado Springs every year?
That sounds.
Can we have the Hockey's tournament out there?
Yes, let's have the
I
Hockey
think that
East
we
really
should
close.
invite Denver to join Hockey East.
Well, Gonzaga is thinking of joining the Big East, apparently. Which, if we remember, the Big East was doomed the last time by trying to add a West Coast team.
It's always good to repeat your mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. History repeats itself or something like that. Yeah, so we've got us a little Quinnipiac, BC, and a little Denver, North Dakota next weekend. That sounds fun.
That does sound fun. I think that's such a tough game to handicap. I think I like Denver, though.
I mean, I like Denver.
Are you saying you like Denver because you don't want North Dakota to win? And that's for Joe.
Well, that's a fair question.
Oh,
That
I thought For me, that's the answer.
I know that's the answer for you.
I will say that I was rooting hardcore for Denver, because I really didn't want North Dakota to get to play Ferris State to make it to the final.
And because
No,
you also wanted BU's ass kicking to get more validated.
fair enough.
With every single win, that BU butt whooping just becomes more and more self-fulfilling or something like that. I don't even know. Just looks better and better for you.
But yeah, North Dakota. I mean, we should definitely bring on some guests that know these teams better next week, since we'll give them a little Western bias, and so we're going to get an East versus West national championship game. Prepare your narratives.
My narrative is, God, why does it have to be that Eastern team? I want the NCHC to burn. Specifically, I want North Dakota to burn, but I don't want BC to have more than BU. Y'all are so lucky, by the way. You got yourself just a great little coach right there. And he's just won everything. Can you imagine, given the state of other BC programs, what's going to happen when York retires?
I'm going to not think about that right now.
Oh.
Honestly, BC hockey will be fine, but fine is a totally different definition from what we have now. I mean, the BC has had more Frozen Fours, I think, during the Jerry York. The amount of Frozen Fours that Jerry York has taken BC to in like 20 years is equal to the amount that I think Denver has gone ever. And like Denver's an awesome program, and that goes to show how just insane.
That seems not true because Denver has more national titles than B. No, they don't. That's not true. I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
I want to say Denver has like 16 Frozen Four appearances, and what Jerry York has like 13 at BC.
That seems high because just in the past couple of years he's missed multiple times.
Well, it's been 7 out of the last 11, I want to say.
Is that high? Yeah, I think it is that high. But he missed last year. He went the year before, but he missed the year before that.
Whatever. I can get the actual numbers, but I mean it's a lot. It's a lot. I'll give you the years. Boston College men's hockey.
Titles. Denver has 7.
Yeah, I'm talking about Frozen Four appearances.
Oh yeah, I don't want to count that up.
Appearances. For under Jerry York, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2004, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016. So a total of 12. I mean, that's
so
is that a lot.
That is a good program has been to the Frozen Four 12 times. And in fact,
a great program.
Here's a list of NCAA men's Frozen Four appearances. So Denver has 15. Harvard and Wisconsin have 12. Maine and Michigan State have 11. Colorado College and Michigan Tech have 10. St. Lawrence has 9. The greatest of all time, Cornell has 8.
Cornell, of course, the greatest program of all time, and you can hear the echoes of those 8 in the rafters at Lina Rink, just raining down and showing what history and narrative the Cornell program has across the board. There is nothing greater than Cornell hockey, and that's why all these teams that have been to so many more Frozen Fours, they're just doing it wrong. You only need to go 8 times. If you go more than that, well, that's just being greedy. Cornell is about the people, which is why they're partly a state school. It's all just about the people, and so open and accessible. And that's why they're leaving some on the table for other teams. Cornell could go to more Frozen Fours, but they know that they should be leaving those Frozen Fours on the table so that other teams can go. BC, Jerry York's a greedy coach. Jerry York is not selfless. He's got it all inside. He's only thinking about himself. He can't think about other teams. And he just doesn't have the heart and the character to stand out there. He's not a man of class. If there's one word to describe Jerry York, it would be classless. And I would sit here and I would just say that Cornell is the most classy program in the history of college hockey.
Fair. So basically, I don't know how many Frozen Fours Jerry York made. Previous stops. just at BC, just Jerry York at BC, the only programs in history to go to the Frozen Four more are Michigan, BU, North Dakota, Minnesota, and Denver.
We got one category over you still.
So
We still got something.
that's a pretty weak ass category because it's in the history of your program. You've been more than just this one guy who's been coaching since 97. He'll take it, I guess, right?
We got to take what we can get, considering you're going to.
So my point here is, I think that there's going to be a natural, I think that what's going to happen after Jerry York retires, and this is really not the show to talk about this. And in fact, I'd like to never talk about it.
I've got a question related to it as soon as you finish this sentence.
What's going to happen is BC is going to become just a good program that, as good programs do. Look at BU. They've made the Frozen Four twice. They've also had some bad years, in the last decade. They won a national championship. They made it to a national championship game. They had some pathetic one-and-dones. They had some mediocre seasons. But in general, they've been, pretty okay. Like Minnesota. They've made they've made a national championship game. They've made some Frozen Fours. They've had some bad years. They've had some good years. That's going to be what BC is going to be. But that's going to seem wow, can you believe, whoever the athletic director at the time is made such a horrible hire? We used to go to the Frozen Four every year. And it's just an unsustainable thing that we're never going to see ever again.
Joe. Boston College just made its 274th appearance in the Frozen Four under Jerry York. He's 2 wins away from a national championship. Theoretical.
Nope.
He wins.
Nope. I think we're gonna end the show now.
He wins and he retires.
This was a great show, everyone.
Answer the question.
No,
it's not over.
So that was our post-game show about Quinnipiac and Lowell.
No.
We didn't talk about that game much at all.
No.
Hey, good night,
Stop
everybody.
yourself. Stop yourself.
Jody, come on. You can handle this.
I honestly, no.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But at the same time, I also think that when Jerry York does retire, he's just going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, I retire. At the end of the season. No plan.
Mid-season?
Nah, at the end of a season, without any preemptive announcement, he's just going to say, oh, hey, just so you know, this was my last one. Bye. And, have no ceremony, no nothing. I mean, think back to Jerry York's 1000th win ceremony. He gave a, 30-second speech.
Oh, yeah, I know. We tried to ask him about it, a billion times before that, and he wouldn't say anything about it because he was like, yeah, I don't care.
Do you think he wouldn't even do the Jack Parker, I'm going to announce before the playoffs to make my team win more games? Which is what Jack Parker did.
Yeah, no, I don't think that that's a possibility right now for this year.
Really?
For this year, I don't think so. He seems to still really have that jump in his step and desire to keep going.
No, and believe me, I understand that. I'm just my thing is that he, however, what's he got 3 or 4 more years? People are saying on his contract. I don't know how long his contract is, but
I mean, he has as many years as he wants to go. I don't think a contract is ever going to be the issue.
Without a doubt. But I guess that kind of plays into my point more. As the guy, as he's done everything. He got his 1000th victory this year. Winning another title, I mean, what better way to go out, I guess?
That's fair. When I think of, and I'm not, his buddy or anything, but, I've had a chance to be around Jerry York and, kind of get a sense for how he ticks. And I think you have too, Chris. And the way I see it, I see winning a national title this year, which I don't think they're going to do, by the way, as to him would be awesome, wow, we're in our stride. Let's go for another one next year.
I have a couple points here to make. Number one is from Angry99 Banner, who says York will retire by telegram from Nova Scotia, which is so true. It's so on point.
I mean, it'll not from Nova Scotia. It'll probably be from a fishing trip in Florida. But
Or what Jerry York, next head coach at New Brunswick.
you know what I could see Jerry York doing? Becoming the next coach of Watertown High.
Oh God, he would love that so much.
You would have so much fun doing
He
that.
would love that. I mean, to your point though, the money and the things, to Chris's point or your point, the money and things will never be an issue for BC because the head coaching position is literally endowed by the head of marketing at Apple Incorporated. So they're going to be fine on every front there in terms of whatever they need for York, whatever they need for the next guy. They're going to have it. They've found someone who totally buys into the hockey program and has the most loaded pockets you could. I mean, that is like Terry Pegula loaded pockets level right there.
And of course, I don't want to make it seem like BC's going to come to the end of his contract cycle and go, I don't think that we can keep Jerry York because he wants too much money. But I can see him just having some vague number down the road of just hey, yeah, I might want to just stop doing this every day at that point. Because people do that. They retire. Right.
And here's an interesting point. So BC's recruiting has ticked up in the last few months. They've added a bunch of really high-end recruits that are coming in 3 years down the road. And I don't know if that's a sign that York is still going strong out there, or if they've signaled to these kids oh yeah, by the way, Brown's going to be your coach, don't worry about it. Because you have to think a kid that's coming in 3 years, there's no way York is going to be his coach at the end of the tenure.
Would you want BC to pull what UNH is doing right now and name a coach in waiting and then be York's got 3 years
I don't want them to just hand the job over to anyone, so no. Yeah. I want them to have a full nationwide search and hire the best coach that is willing to take the job. And for instance, if it were happening now, I'd want them to make a run at Lehman, and if Lehman says no, make a run at Bazan. If Bazan says no, make whoever the next best choice is. Don't just settle on.
Blaze McDonald's free.
I'll take a pass there. But I mean, realistically, right now, if BC had to hire a coach, you'd think that a lot of people would want that job. They'd have no shortage.
I love that job.
Shep for BC head coach, taking him down from the inside.
working the ankles.
Anyway, I don't really want to talk about BC. No. We're going to the Frozen Four.
There is one coaching thing I want to say, and this might be where we start to wrap up here, though. But what if North Dakota wins in the first year after Hackstall?
Fire Hackstall.
That is so possible right now.
Oh, yeah.
Even probably that.
We did get a call for Jerry York's head last week in our Twitter meeting.
That's right.
So maybe his tenure actually is ended. Really, I know they made the Frozen Four, but that was a really bad game they played against Northeastern, so they're probably going to fire him, I think.
Is Boston University going to make the tournament?
It might have been better if they hadn't.
Yeah, they probably just should have not. They could have declined the invitation, right?
In hindsight, I wish.
You know what? I want to touch on one last thing before we go, and I think we'll all agree that the answer is yes. Should Notre Dame be banned from the Hockey East tournament next year?
I mean, should? Yes. Will they? TBD.
And can we get rid of the octofinals in the process?
You're asking for a lot right there.
I know. I would like to think that.
Especially because most of the schedules, probably pretty, dates have started to be filled at this point. And they're filled on the belief that the league will not be playing conference games that weekend.
Right. That's a good point.
Unpopular opinion. I like the octofinals because I like more hockey.
You and the 97 people who go to those games love the octofinals. But you know what?
There were only 97.
It'd still be the same. Well, I guess it is technically a couple extra games.
Yeah, it's just I like watching people skate on the ice and shoot the puck into the net. It's fun.
If you like watching people shoot, then let me tell you about Adi Oxenden.
Well, I think I also enjoy watching that. I think that's a good note to end the show on. So
Joe
next
wants to go to bed.
Joe does want to go to bed. Next week, we will do our Frozen 4 preview. I think we should invite BC Hockey Blog on. I think that'll be fun. Maybe we'll get some of the BCI crew. We have some we should invite Chip onto the show. We get Chip.
Yeah, and we got another one. We got Gabby probably.
All right. Oh yeah. Can you apologize and say?
Yeah, I'm in the process of apologies. She's getting an invite to next week if she's not watching right now. So
we'll bring in. We have some Denver people.
we do. We'll track down a Denver person.
Screw North Dakota. No North Dakota guest.
Oh, we're going bold.
Unless we want Goon.
He was fine last year.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Goon.
He seems fine enough with us right now. He's not mad at us right now, I don't think.
We would have had a great meetup if Lowell had made it to the Frozen 4.
Oh, God, if Lowell had made it, we would have had what an epic show that would have been.
It would have, because we've got a lot of Denver folks that we know, our Let's Go DU people and all that. But we've got enough connections with Quinnipiac. We could be able to do a little show on the Friday night, maybe between games, live from Tampa. I know you won't be there, but
yeah, now you're making me think about what my schedule's going to be like to pull that one off.
Skype you in.
Yeah. Yeah, we could do an in-between game if we have to do an in-between game. Yeah, that could happen.
Wait,
We'll figure it out. I'm very excited to get to Tampa. I'm very sad that you guys won't be there.
This is the only thing where it's like I'm excited to go to Tampa.
yeah, it's so I've heard that line so many times in the past month and a half, and that's the only period that phrase has been uttered.
I've heard so many people spend years just dumping on Tampa, but in hockey, Tampa is like, oh, it's a place. It's not Cleveland. It's not Buffalo. It's not Columbus. Hey. Our other places in the rotation are Boston, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Let me tell you something about Boston, Chicago, and Minneapolis. They ain't Tampa in April.
That is true. And it was 87 degrees in Tampa today.
We need Miami to bid on one of these things.
How about Honolulu?
I don't know they got a rank of Honolulu that's big enough for this.
You know where I actually do want to see a Frozen 4?
Phoenix? Because
Wow.
we're probably going to get a
That's
Phoenix
probably
one.
gonna happen. I was going to say the Bay Area.
I mean, we got an Anaheim one. Phoenix will not be that far behind.
Yeah.
Bay Area could be good. So San Jose.
Oh man, guys, sorry to interrupt you, but this is important Notre Dame related stuff.
Please fire away.
Notre Dame lost in the Elite Eight.
Yes, we know that.
Okay, so somebody posted a picture of the touchdown Jesus with the crying Jordan face on it. And life is made.
You know what? Just when I thought that the crying Jordan had gotten old,
Oh, it got old years ago.
that's funny. That's a good one.
Oh, God. Notre Dame's a terrible place.
I mean, they lose every game and everything.
They're the worst.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, all right, that's the end of the show. Let's go to bed.
Have a good one.
We'll talk to you later. Good night, guys. Stop
Night,
the broadcast
Thank you.
and transmission. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you. You're
Thank
all
you for listening. You're great. We rambled. It was awesome. We're still rambling.
I hope you enjoyed, even though it was probably bad. Bye, everyone.
I actually don't think it was that bad.
All right.
It was better than the show we weren't going to have, which was going to happen for about a 10 or 15 minute period.
You make a very compelling point. Good night, everyone.
We'll see you. Bye.